So here's the island of Manhattan, belted round by wharves and water. And on a dreamy Sunday afternoon, look and you will see them. Miles and miles of men, posted like silent sentinels, staring at the water, gazing at the ocean. For meditation and water are wedded forever. And as for me, when I go to sea, I go as a simple sailor. And the whale itself, forever unreachable, a giant snow hill on the horizon. 8 bells. Do you hear them? They say that books are the way the dead talk to the living. And so the great floodgates of the wonder world swung open, and I passed through them. finished Moby Dick. He sent it to a friend, along with a note that said, "Concerning my forthcoming book, don't you open it. Don't you read it. It's not a book for you. It's made of rough ropes and chains. A polar wind blows through it, and birds of prey hover over it." A pretty amazing thing to say about your new book. Now I have the Phantom paperback edition, and it's really pretty ripped up at this point. I've read it so many times. And it's strange, each time I read it, it seems completely different with all these new themes and subplots and undercurrents. And Melville calls his book a draft of a draft of a draft. And he keeps jump cutting around. And there are these long chapters on fishing rights and the Crusades and alchemy. And then there are all these characters. And he puts them on a boat and he ships them out. And they only gradually realize that it's not at all clear where they're going. But no one ever says, "Exactly what is it that we're looking for, sir?" Anyway, I finally decided that what Moby Dick is really about is enormous heads. And not just Melville's head, so full of theories and secrets and stories. But there's the whale, and what the whale looks like to them is a huge, monstrous, sort of disembodied head floating out in the middle of nowhere. A head that keeps bobbing up out of the water and then disappearing. Just a huge head with a tail. Now my favorite story is right in the middle of the book, and it's about the time they cut the whale's head off and they suspend it from the ship with cables. And then they drill a hole in the head and they lower buckets in to get the oil out. And then to just get the last bit of oil, they lower this guy inside the head. And then Melville creates this really weird accident. The cables snap, and the head, no longer buoyant with the oil, starts to sink rapidly to the bottom of the ocean with this guy inside. And then he sort of jump cuts to this medieval German theory about the spine, which is that every vertebra in the spine is actually a tiny skull, terminating in the big skull that sort of balances up on top. But you know, when you think about it, humans are the closest mammals to whales in terms of just sheer proportional head size. We're born with these enormous, almost monstrously huge heads and these tiny bodies. And these heads are so huge and heavy that we can just barely lift them up off our pillows. You know, I always wondered what the name was for this little groove that's right above your mouth, this little trench. I mean, it's odd that all of the other things on your face have like kind of familiar names. Nose, eyes, and then there's this. And then recently, I found out that this is called the philtrum. And that according to Jewish mythology, we're born knowing everything. And just as we come to consciousness, just as we come to life, an angel flies down and puts a finger right here and leaves this mark. And this mark is called the secret of all beginnings.
Captain. Okay, now I'll be honest with you. I never read the book. But hey, we all love the old story of a sinking ship Tables, chairs, and ropes, sails all sucked under, descending slowly to the bottom, watched only by the beady eyes of a passing squid. I see the white world! There is a man running on the horizon. Moonlight on the water. And the great white whale to me. I've seen it. Yes. No. Color of a pale wind. Color of my missing leg. Color of a clock that's running out of time. The color of nothing. And the world adrift. And Noah counting his animals, 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, always saving for a rainy day. But like Darwin, he walks around collecting bugs in a world that is broken and ripped apart long ago. And me, I'm a collector too. But everything looks ugly. And the crew, a mob of unnecessary duplicates. The less said, the better. Let Karl Marx write their miserable story. Nothing but ghosts in their shrouds. Dead these many long years. Drowned a long time ago in an old book. And the Lord shall smote Leviathan, that crooked serpent, that piercing serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Isaiah 27.
Dreams are the music of the pause. The pounding of my heart. As a tick tick. As a tick tick.
first started working on this project about Moby Dick, I did a lot of research on whales. So I went to the Museum of Natural History in London to talk to the people in the whale department. Now, this place is kind of running low on funds, and they're sort of economizing, sort of doubling up on staff. So talked to the new head of the whale department, and as it turned out, his specialty was not whales at all. His specialty was worms. And he had his book on worms on sale at the gift shop, completely illustrated with his own pen drawings. Anyway, we were talking about various groups that had been trying to make contact with whales. We were checking around various websites, and there's one particular group that has a plan to float a large tin barge out on the ocean. And then they're going to kind of tap dance the clicking codes of the whale's language on the barge, kind of Morse code. And then the other part of the group is going to dress up in giant squid costumes and sort of hang their tentacles over the side as bait in an effort to raise them up. Now, the idea of dressing up as the whale's favorite food and then trying to make contact with him without knowing the code, well, you'd have to say that's just sort of suicidal. Just one more point before we go on, and that's concerning the characters and, let's say, plot in Moby Dick. And I'm thinking now of the 1926 Warner Brothers movie starring John Barrymore. Now, briefly, here's the plot. Ahab has fallen in love with Esther, but she doesn't really love him back. So he's kind of depressed. He ships out to hunt Moby Dick. And in this version, you actually see the whale rip his leg off. And so he's down in the hold, and he's kind of sweating and hallucinating, and his half-brother happens to be there. And the half-brother says to him, he says, listen, Ahab, you know, there are some girls that would really be kind of put off by a guy with only one leg. But you know, Esther just isn't that kind of girl. By the way, the half-brother's also in love with Esther. Anyway, pretty soon, there's a big ball down in Atlanta, and Ahab sees Esther at the ball, and she seems on the surface anyway pretty repelled by the stump. So he ships off again to hunt Moby Dick. Well, a few years go by, and there's he's hunting somewhere near Japan, and there's a big typhoon, and Esther and the half-brother just happen to be in the area at the time, and the typhoon sinks their ship, and the half-brother sort of floats by the Pequod, and Ahab fishes them out. Now, the half-brother confesses that actually Ahab was loved by Esther the whole time, instead of the half-brother. So anyway, this makes Ahab so angry that he rips his peg leg off and beats his half-brother to death and just throws him overboard. A kind of a Cain and Ahab sort of thing. Anyway, a few more years go by, and Ahab is back in Nantucket, and he just decides, just kind of for old time's sake, to stop by Esther's place. So he walks down the road, and he opens the gate, and he knocks on the door, and suddenly there's Esther, just standing there. She hadn't drowned at all. Anyway, there are quite a few other characters in the movie that are never mentioned in the book. And one of them is a hangman named Johnny. And he sings this really long sea shanty over the opening credits about hanging various members of the crew. So I thought it would be only fair to do something from the movie tonight, as well as the book. So this is it.
Give their orders to them. So pull, lads, pull, lower away. Stick your hand in fire, walk on the polar ice, or we'll hang you from the yard arm. We won't think about it twice. I give the orders, I am the captain's will. So pull, boys, pull. They called him Hangin' Johnny, 'cause he hangs so many men. I'd hang my dear old mother, I'd hang my best friend. So when you see a whale, boys, lower for the kill. I give the orders, I am the captain's will. Summer sea, written up there in the dying stars, the way the world should be. Then we'll cut you down and put you in a box, drop you in the water without a second thought. We'll reduce you to a teardrop, a teardrop. My name will be written in the starry nights, starry nights. I live forever in the wild lights, wild lights. Written up there in the polar lights. Remember me. My name will be written in the starry nights, starry nights. I live forever in the wild lights, wild lights. Written up there in the polar lights. Remember me, remember me.
Seat thyself sultanically upon the moons of Saturn, and take high abstracted man alone, and he is a wonder, grandeur, and woe. But zoom in closer, and look at mankind as individuals, both historical and hereditary, and you will see they are for the most part a mob of unnecessary duplicates. The moon on the water, it shines like a lucky dime, a single pale circle, and the ocean's skin is thin as man's. And yet, some certain significance lurks in all things, else all things are little worth, and the round world itself but an empty cipher, a huge zero to sell by the cartload, to fill up some morass in the Milky Way. What makes the front of man? His eyes. It is his eyes.
There was a little cabin boy named Pip, and he had a little tent get it. Oh, rig-a-dig-dig-dong dig. He was the bell boy. How many bells? 8 bells. Oh, then one day they lowered the boat, and they threw out the line and it wrapped around his throat. Jerked him out into the water. Boy overboard. Then the bosun said, cut the line, cut it back, and they reeled him in like an old drowned rat. Then the bosun said,
Listen up, Pip. The motto in whaling is stick to the ship. But if you choose to jump again, we're gonna leave you there, out in the deep end.
well, you know what happened. Pip jumped again, and they left him out there for a night and a day, bobbing around like a piece of old hay. Boy overboard.
In the cabin, boy, he slipped and fell. He landed in the water. He fell into another world. Boy overboard. Boy overboard. He slipped slow motion down, a ringing in his ears. Ding dong man, he fell, he fell, he fell. Shafts of light, everything is straight. Underwater light, the sweet things of the world, the thundering hills, the cheeks of young girls, they become just thoughts. Pick the cabin boy. He dropped down to the bottom. He fell without a sound, and down on the ocean floor he walked around. Boy overboard. Boy overboard. Pip saw God the Weaver working on his loom, and God said, listen, Pip, even if you drown down here in the gloom, even if you call, I can't hear you, I can't see you, I'm busy. All creation mechanical, all creation mechanical.
stand high above the deep black sea. Sparkling rain is wrapping all around me. Comets fly by, planets turning in their spin. I whirl around with them. I fly through the silent night. I'm a part of it, a tiny speck, a molecule, just a drop in the heart of it. On bright days, the great white clouds go sailing by. Look like giant whales of boats in pursuit of them. On dark nights, great panoramas in the sky. Down below me, the ocean is rolling. But then I think, what if I slip? I move my foot or hand a bit. I find myself falling through a hole in the world, down into the summer sea. Some believe that there's a bigger land, and accidents are just another part of it. But I am just a simple man, flying, falling to the heart of it. Different man is what he knows. Then I would be a tiny speck, a molecule, just a drop in the heart of it. There are divers who go down. They walk on the bottom of the ocean just to take a look around. But if I fall from right up here, what would I be? Just another drop in the heart of the green sea. And the waves roll, and the crests and the swirls. And if I slip, I would fall, I'd be falling through a hole in the world, down to the summer sea. And the waves roll, and the crests and the swirls. And if I slip, I would fall, I'd be falling through a hole in the world. And the waves roll, and the crests and the swirls. And if I slip, I would fall, I'd be falling through a hole in the world.
How to find you, maybe by your sea. Oh, weird trail of notes in the water. One white wave in all these oceans. One white wave slipping through the nets of silence, under polar ice caps, miles down. You leave your echoes in the water. One white wave in all these oceans. would wait.
So the captain took a Spanish coin and nailed it to the masthead. Whoever shall raise the crooked jaw and wrinkled brow of Moby Dick shall have it. See this gold coin! It is the bait. It is the lure that shines and spins around in the water. It is the lure that draws them up. Certain metals, magnets, lights can create an alchemical reaction in man. These metals, when used correctly, create a spark. And he who is made of wood, down lead, will stand before your eyes a living, breathing thing.
Because in all men there resides certain properties, occult and wondrous and hidden. When combined by mistake are called forth here on earth as it is in heaven. We are made of diamonds and dust, chalk and carbon. We are made of fire and water. We freeze, we fall, we bend.
See these magnets? When tuned correctly, it will draw them forth and they will resonate. Vibrate!
Because in all men there reside certain properties, occult and wondrous and hidden. And when combined by mistake are called forth here on earth as it is in heaven. We are made of diamonds and dust, chalk and carbon. We are made of fire and water. We freeze, we fall, we bend.
Not gilded, no, but solid through and through. See this coin? Now you see it, now you don't. Watch it wheel for the great unfallen Western world. Yes, another unhappy sunset. See this light? Shine it in their eyes. Now watch this! Utter darkness has succeeded. A great white whale. Burn into your eyes. And every man looking for his monster!
Sperm whales communicate with each other using elaborate clicking patterns. And they can project these patterns over vast distances in the ocean. And they use them to talk to each other about the weather and various feeding grounds and the best routes and navigation. But because the ocean is so noisy now with all the information that travels underwater, it's easy for the whales' patterns to get drowned out. And if the whales can't hear the patterns, they lose all their sense of direction. And they just start to get lost. For example, young sperm whales that spend the summer up near Norway start to migrate back down south. But if they can't hear the directions clearly, they take the left turn too early, and instead of going out into the Atlantic, they start to swim down the English Channel, and they get beached on the shore. You know, there are a lot of things about sperm whales that never get explained in Moby Dick. Like why sperm whales are called sperm whales. And the reason is that in the 15th century, some French farmers found a beached whale. And they cut off his head. And inside they found about 1,000 pounds of this oily white stuff. And they assumed for some reason that this must be the whale's sperm. Although what 1,000 pounds of sperm would be doing stored in the whale's head remained something of a mystery to them. As for the great whales themselves, they swim in the seas in enormous caravans, led by the old bull male. And when this bull male is past his prime, he splits off from the herd, and he becomes a kind of loner. And he starts to swim in wide, irregular circles, talking to himself, like the last man in a flooded world.
As for my knowledge of the bones of Leviathan, I will tell you where I got it. I am indebted to the late King of Tranquil. Some years ago, I visited him. He lived on an old sugarcane island. He had a love of all matters barbaric. He had a collection of glistening spears and costly paddles, aromatic canoes, aromatic canoes. Chief among these latter was a drunken sperm whale that had washed up dead and struck on his shore in a storm. He had the giant jawbone propped against a coconut tree, a coconut tree. Inside the skeleton, the high priests were guarding. They had made a shrine, they were worshipping Leviathan. They had made the skull into an altar, and artificial smoke was ascending from the hole where the real water spout used to be. The skeleton dimensions I propose to set before you, I shall read to you verbatim from my arm, where I had them tattooed in my days of wild wanderings. But as I wish the other parts of my body to remain a blank page for a poem I was composing, I did not trouble with the odd inch. If you want the odd inch, then go to museum. Oh, that's what museums are for. The odd inch. The odd inch. The odd inch. The odd inch. To the great sperm whale itself. His tail exceeds 20 feet, filled with fibers and filaments capable of sinking an entire crew in one swift motion. A mouth the size and spaciousness of a wigwam. Now, from the front, the whale is a dead blind wall, completely featureless. No, let's say, face. His head, a giant battering ram, and his eyes, well, they're tiny, and they're positioned way out on the sides, port and starboard. So what does the whale see directly in front of him? Absolutely nothing. Utter darkness. So here you have the biggest mammal in the world, and let's say he's barreling towards you at around Mach 20, his mouth wide open, his giant jaws snapping, and he's blind as a bat. So you may ask, how does he zero in on his prey? Answer, well, he takes a zigzag path, flinging himself left, then right, then left, then right, looking out of one eye, then the other, all at top speed, like taking a million tiny snapshots of his fleeing prey, who's also zigzagging about, constantly adjusting his course until, bam! Naps it.
So, let us consider Leviathan as he comes floundering down like a ghost through the headwaters of eternity. And as I stand here among these mighty whale bones, skulls, tusks, ribs, jaws, I am as by a flood borne back to that wondrous time before time began. Here, Saturn's gray chaos rolls. Castles of ice covered the tropics. A great silence. The only sound, hailstones knocking against the icebergs, and a faint clicking under the ice as the great whales began to invent their language, echolocating themselves so they can find each other in the vast oceans. For what is it to be lost there? The inky blankness, the thunderous sound above.
They say that in 1842, on a plantation in Alabama, the slaves unearthed a huge skeleton, the bones of a giant whale, a Leviathan. From the time when all the world was covered with water, from the Andes to the Himalayas, and even Alabama was deep down under. And the slaves looked at the huge bones, and they said, "These must be the bones of a fallen angel. These must be the bones of a fallen angel. Out in the ocean, out in the water, we look for signs of him. He looks like a giant snow-heeled fountain. Then he disappears, he's a speck on the horizon. We see him lonely in parts, the flash of the tail, his beating heart, he's a piece in parts. It's easier for a camel to slide through the eye of a needle, than to find a whale who hides at the bottom of the ocean. It's easier to sail around the world in a coffee cup, than to see a whale when he comes rising up. We see him lonely in parts, a fountain fins, a speck on the horizon, giant teeth in a big mouth. Look out, look out, look out, look out. So hit an elephant with the darts, and he just reaches around and pulls it out of his trunk, but hid away in the heart, and the whole ocean turns red, it turns red. We see him only in parts, a fountain feeds, a speck on the horizon, giant teeth in a big mouth. Look out, look out, look out, look out. So get it in your head, and there may be a few things you can't recall at all. But get it in your heart, and your pieces and parts, in pieces and parts.
Noah was a righteous preacher. He was a son of Abraham. His righteousness was leaking all over the land. God said to Noah, listen, I'm going to flood out the world. I'm going to drown all the men and women. I'm going to drown all the boys and girls. Hey, hey, hey. Line them up. Line them all up. So get yourself an architect. Build yourself a boat. Fill it full of animals and make sure it floats. Now the fish down in the ocean, they didn't need no ark. They were happy swimming down there in the dark. The mighty squid, the dolphin, they never got rounded up. The little shrimp, the great whales, old Noah couldn't count them up. Yeah, promise me a rainbow, go ahead. Promise me this rain will end. And tell me this. What is a man if he outlives the lifetime of his God? What is a man? What is a man?
You know, when Herman Melville was 22, he and a friend signed up for a whaling voyage. And they shipped out from New Bedford in January of 1841. And the voyage took them down to Rio, around Cape Horn, and up the western coast of South America to the Galapagos Islands. Now, conditions on the ship turned out to be really terrible, and he and his friend, Richard Green, deserted near the Marquesas Islands. And they made their way ashore, and then they got lost, and they wandered into a valley inhabited by man-eating cannibals, the so-called Typee tribe. 5 years later, Melville wrote his first book, and it was all about his time at the Typee. And he called it Typee, A Peep at Polynesian Life. And it was an instant bestseller. The book was then printed in Britain with the title, An Account of 4 Months' Residence Among the Native Peoples of the Marquesas Islands, where it didn't sell as well. 5 years later, Melville wrote Moby Dick, and he was having a really hard time finishing it. And the book was at the printers, and hundreds of pages had gone through the press. And still, no one had seen Moby Dick. Sometimes they thought they had, but it always turned out to be just another cresting wave, or a giant squid, or a squall in the distance. But desire is a funny thing. When you really want something, bits of it start to appear in everything that you see.
So it happened that one day, as the Pequod, pushed by a great breeze, was headed east, directly into the south. The captain took a reading, and the compass spun around twice, pointing each time unfailingly to the west. Steersman, he cried, how is it we head directly east with the sun astern? Shall you believe your eyes on this piece of metal? For during a storm, the needle of the compass, having been struck by lightning, had lost every magnetic property. The lodestone that guided the ship, no more use than a knitting needle. And so the captain flung the compass overboard. The palsied universe lies before us. And like some lost travelers in Lapland who refuse to wear colored glasses, we are blinded by it. Rat-a-tat. So a man's seconds tick. Oh, how immaterial are all materials. So far gone am I on the dark side of the earth, that its other side, the theoretical bright one, seems like uncertain twilight to me.
Siberia or France. But when you ask them, hey, how was it? They say, oh, I don't know, it's nice. There are lots of writers who use a lot of big long words. Liberty and beauty and freedom, they write it down. Are nothing without their windy sound.
land and rising water, visions I've seen and cries I've heard. I can't put these things into words, might as well put some rings in a hollow chord and shake it, shake it. There are lots of people who talk just to hear the sound, the sound, the sound of their own voices. But take an empty shell and put it up to your ear. You can hear the ocean rumbling around in there. Ooh, the green sea. Ooh, the green sea. Green sea. Green sea.
Now, every slave ship that crosses the Atlantic has its entourage of sharks. Those diamond-toothed, accommodating dogs of the sea who trot alongside ready just in case a parcel needs to be carried anywhere or a dead slave is thrown overboard and is in need of a decent burial at sea. Now, when the crew kills a whale, they cut off the head and they suspend it from the side of the ship. And the sharks smell the blood. And they get so excited that they bend themselves around into these circular bows and they start tearing out their own entrails. Eating machines of the highest, most efficient order. But then again, turn the picture upside down and what do you see? The men on deck are hacking away at the meat of shark and whale and wolfing it down. For who's not a cannibal in this world? Anyway, one night the second mate, Stubbs, was up on deck and this racket was going on down in the ocean, the sharks ramming and tearing. And he says to the cook, "Hey, cook, listen, go tell those sharks to keep it down out there." So the cook goes over to the side of the ship and he leans over and he says, "Okay, listen, you sharks. Second mate says to keep it down out here." No, they're never gonna hear that," says the second mate. "You gotta preach to those sharks. Try again." So the cook says, "Okay, listen, fellow creatures. Fill your damn bellies, but stop that racket. Look, cook," says the second mate, "when you're preaching, you gotta coax them a little bit, you know, like flatter them. Once more." So the cook says, "Okay, you're sharks, that's certain. Your voraciousness, well, it can't be helped, that's nature. But to govern the wickedness in you, that's the point. For if you govern the shark in you, well then you'll be an angel. For an angel is nothing but a shark well governed." "That's it," says the second mate. "Now give him the benediction." "Cussed fellow creatures, kick up the damnedest row as ever you can. Fill your damn bellies till they bust. Sink to the bottom of the ocean. Go to sleep on the coral, and then die!"
Sometimes you have an instinct for your enemy. Sometimes it's just a smell that festers and explodes and flames at your feet. Human madness is a cunning thing. Just when you think it's gone forever, it sneaks up behind you wearing a different disguise. Sometimes it's a rhinoceros charging right at you with his huge horn. Sometimes it's just a blank sheet of paper. Sometimes it's wearing the face of your own dead father. I see the white world! Something on the horizon! Nothing! I am darkness leaping out of light. I am a man running out of time. And the gods, omniscient foreigners, always speaking in tongues, babbling, hiding in corners, handing out orders, all the while oblivious of suffering man. And man himself, though idiotic and not knowing what he does, is full of sweetness and love. And then one day, as the captain stood on deck, a Seahawk flew down out of nowhere and plucked off his hat. And I watched as the hawk flew off until it became a tiny speck on the horizon, a speck holding an even smaller speck. And just as it disappeared, the hat fell from a vast height into the sea.
Things that are owned and things that are not owned. Now in the fishery, these categories are called fast fish and loose fish. Now a fast fish is one that's tied fast to the shipment. It's been claimed from the ocean and is owned by its captor. And a loose fish is one that swims about freely in the ocean, owned by no one. Now on land, the human inhabitants can be divided in the same way. The owners and the owned. For what is the needy old widow compared to a greedy landlord? She is a fast fish, tied fast to him and owned. And what are the bodies and souls of Russian servants compared to their masters? They are fast fish, all owned, all tied fast. Now as loose fish, what was America when Columbus claimed her in 1492? Then it was Poland to the Tsar, and India to England, and Mexico to the United States. All loose fish, unclaimed and owned by no one. And further, what are the rights of man and the liberties of the world but loose fish? And what are all men's minds and opinions but loose fish? And what is the great globe itself but a loose fish? And what are you, dear reader, but a fast fish and a loose fish?
Body wrapped round and round with the harpoon lines. Give way, the captain cried. My soul ship starts upon this voyage! And as he cried, the great whale turned. The line was thrown, but it spun quickly back and pulled him like a shot. And he disappeared into the black water.
Silence. Nothing. The boats were some distance now from the ship. And then they looked around. The ship. Great God, where's the ship? And as they turned, their mouths wide open, they saw the whale smash in its hull. Ropes, sails, timbers reeled. And
and the great masts of the Pequod began to sink.
And then concentric circles seized the longboat itself. And every floating lance pole and oar and man and cask went spinning round and round in a giant vortex that carried the smallest chip of the Pequod out of sight. And so I floated for a day and a night. Sharks glided by as if they had padlocks on their mouths. And on the second day, a ship drew near and picked me up at last. Just another orphan. And I alone am left to tell the tale. Call me Ishmael. Were this world an endless plain where we go walking, and all we had to do was pick a place and walk right towards it, life would be so simple. We'd all be going somewhere. The pilgrims to Mecca, the climbers to the mountain top, the lovers to the center of the heart. But there are phantoms that swim before us, and they say, you can walk on water. You can walk on water. And in pursuit of these far mysteries, we chase this round globe over. What